And Jeff Ogilvy survives Wingfoot.
Now the moment Aaron Badley has waited for.
Karrie Webb is the 5-time Australian Open champion.
Golf at its best by one of the best in golf, Peter Thompson.
Stand in front of a crowd like this today and win the PGA Championship is pretty special.
He's done it at last. Greg Norman.
Matt Jones gets his name on the Stonehaven Cup.
Leishman to 11 under. Now we've got a new leader, kids.
There it is, Adam Scott, a life changer.
Coming up next, you have unrestricted access to golf across Australia and the world. Thanks to Golf Australia, we're going inside the ropes. Subscribe now on iTunes or your favourite podcast app, or head to golf.org.au.
G'day everybody, welcome to Inside the Ropes for the first time in 2020. Great to be back, great to have you with us. A special audio and visual podcast this week. If you're watching it, you know that we're doing that. If you're listening to us on the podcast, the traditional form, there'll be a couple of bits and pieces throughout that might sound a little bit odd, but you'll get the gist on the way through. Heaps to get stuck into as we kick off another massive year, and it wouldn't be Inside the Ropes without Mark Hayes. Hello, mate.
Hello, Murray. Welcome back.
You've spelled well by the looks of it.
Yeah, I've been in a very solid paddock. Thank you very much for noticing. I appreciate that. Cruise is never good for the waistline.
Oh, you did go on a cruise, didn't you?
Did go on the cruise.
Was there a golf net on the cruise? There was?
There was, actually, yeah.
I was listening to an ad for a cruise ship, the Royal Caribbean, on a podcast I listened to, and they've got a surf pool, a wave pool. You can go and surf on the...
Oh, sign me up for that.
How good's that?
Yeah, that's a winner.
Get you on your 12-foot longboard. You'd absolutely kill it. Mike Clayton, lovely to see you. This must be the first time that you've ever... For people who are listening, you're not privy to this, but Clates has actually put on the Golf Australia issued shirt for the televisual experience.
I have.
They must have bent your arm to get you out of one of your Lacostes or something.
It's a good size for Rosie over there. Fit well under. Anyway, that's all right.
Are you well?
I'm good. Just back from the Australian Amateur. Were you there? Did I see you there?
No, I didn't go to the Australian Amateur, but we had a couple of good winners, so that was it was good to see.
We'll get to that a bit later on because they're a good friend of the pod.
I think we need to sort of get ready to talk much more about the
Australian
ISPS Women's Australian Open.
Well, it's coming up on the 13th to 16th of February at Royal Adelaide, which we're all looking forward to enormously. We've got the awakening of Australian golf sort of occurs again over that fortnight with the Vic Open being played, which brings so many players down here to Australia, and then so many of the women go from 13th to Adelaide thereafter, and we're looking forward to this enormously.
We are. This is the tournament annually that's got the best field in Australia.
Yep.
We have the occasional President's Cup that blows it out of the water, but we've got 15 major champions. 15 major champions rolling up to the Royal Adelaide Golf Club, many of whom are in just ripping form. I'd like to put Inbee Park up there as the prime contender. One of the all-time greats in female golf, and she's playing in Australia for the very first time at the Vic Open, but.
Is that right?
Yeah, so she's coming to the Women's National Championship for the very first time, and I urge everyone to get out there. She is one of the absolute legends.
Superstar.
Alan Shipnuck was asked on... Do you know Alan Shipnuck?
Well, of course, he's been a friend of ours
on Twitter
for a long time.
Who was the player of the decade?
Well, he wouldn't have said Mark Leishman.
No, he said Inbee Park. Yeah. Second, Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, there you go. Well, he's got that right then. We'll
the
change his name back to Shipnuck from Wood Duck, which is what we were calling him when he was saying all those things about Leishman a few years ago.
But I think among other names, Young and Lee Six, who was just a breath of fresh air last year, and one of the great characters of women's golf already, and she's coming back for a second crack in Adelaide. Nellie Corder, the defending champions, coming back. Of course, a really strong contingent of Australian players led by Minjee Lee and Hannah Green. Lizette Salas is coming back. She's a great character as well. Amy Yang, So-Yeon Yu's coming back. Marina Alex, Suo, of course, Clates. There's a whole host of really big-name contenders who are legitimate title threats here at Royal Adelaide, and I can't wait to get over there.
This is where the women embarrass the men.
Well,
they embarrass the men on this kind of front.
So-Yeon and Inbee entered, rented a house, and they'll just turn up and play.
That's great.
No, give me a $25,000 first class airfare for my manager stuff.
Yeah.
They just enter the tournament and they turn up and play.
Yeah.
Because women's golf would fall apart if they didn't support it, and they do more than support it. They're amazing.
Yeah. This is my favourite tournament to go and watch, Andy. So,
You've said this on for a number of years now. Why do you like it so much?
The women just give of themselves and they engage the fans better than the men. It's pretty simple, actually. The Vic Open and the Women's Australian Open back-to-back weeks, it's how golf should be. It thinks about it from a fan's perspective. It's as simple as that. Hannah Green has just got some amazing things going on with the crowd every time. So-Yeon Yu's the best smiler in the business. Gobbles Vegemite left, right, and centre, and she looks like an Aussie to the masses. She's one of us. Georgia Hall's coming back. Christy Kerr's back again. Sarah Jane Smith's playing, having just had a baby. There's all sorts of great storylines, and the women are prepared to tell the stories.
So this is the second year of a 3-year deal that South Australia's got to host the Australian Open. It's at Royal Adelaide.
Well, this is the second or fifth or sixth one. This is the fifth one, isn't it?
But it's a 3-year deal that they've.
So it's another.
Another one. Yeah. Royal Adelaide. There's some great golf courses in South Australia. Terrific golf destination. Is it the pick of the courses over there?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
But Glenelg, 2 at the Grange, one of which I redid, one of which Greg redid.
Yep.
Neil Crafter redid Glenelg. Royal Adelaide, which has always been mostly a Mackenzie course. Mackenzie came and redesigned it. And there were amazingly letters in the paper, hugely critical of this imported Scot who was ruining our golf course, because he was responsible for the third hole, which is one of the great short par fours in Australia. And it's a brilliant course, Royal Adelaide.
We're going to do something here, Hazy. For people who are listening to the podcast, you're going to hear a bit of music, but people who are watching what do you call a podcast on telly?
A vodcast?
A vidcast? A vidcast? A vodcast will do. We've got a little bit of a vision package to just set up what we've got to look forward to in South Australia. Goes right, doesn't it? So she was a very popular winner last year, and we got a lot to look forward to at Royal Adelaide from the 13th to the 16th.
Should point out, Andy, that for those who want to see that stinger and are listening on the normal podcast, just go through our normal Golf Australia channels, and that'll be up front and centre very soon, so that you can actually see the great vision that was prepared there. Sorry about that.
And if you're under 23, you'll probably call it a sizzle reel.
Sizzle reel?
I think that's what the youth of today call that sort of stuff. I like it. To get a sense for why this event has the standing in the minds of so many international players, particularly so many of the Americans and the players that play on the LPGA Tour, it's probably worth speaking to somebody who's a bit closer to those players than we are on a weekly basis. And we've got a great friend of the pod rejoining us to tell us why, Hazy.
Especially when it's one of the great podcasters in golfing history. I think that Christina Lance, who's about to join us, has become a bit of a family of Inside the Ropes, and we welcome her back to Inside the Ropes for the first time in 2020, all the way from Florida. Welcome, Christina.
Hey, guys. How are you? I'm glad to be here.
You devastated that this time there will be no Patriots in the Super Bowl before we start talking about golf?
Yes, I am, actually. But you guys will get my full attention this year on Monday, as opposed to seeing me run around the media center in my Tom Brady jersey. My 6-year-old nephew was also devastated because he was a Titans fan. But we will still watch and cheer on with glee.
I noticed Stephen A. Smith, Christina, just to go down this wormhole a little bit further, Stephen A. Smith, a renowned American sports broadcaster, is suggesting that Tom Brady should play for the Tennessee Titans next year.
Well, they are kind of New England South. They've got Vrabel out there, and goodness knows Brady and Vrabel are good friends. I'm praying that the man, that the GOAT, number 12, stays in Foxborough, but wherever he goes, he'll have a whole area following him. We just pray it's still Foxborough.
There's far too much air in the footballs in Tennessee for that to happen. So let's just push on to the business at hand here, Christina.
Watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
We're thrilled to have not only yourself but also the LPGA circus come back to town in a couple of weeks' time, obviously for the Vic Open, but for the purposes of this podcast, Christina, the ISPS Handa Women's Australian Open, it's shaping up to be another cracker.
It's going to be a great week. We're all really excited to head back. I certainly couldn't let you guys throw on another 2 tournaments without me. So I'm looking forward to get down and visiting with all of you again. Excited to see Royal Adelaide, a new course, after being down the street at Grange last year. But I was looking through the field list, and we've got a great list set up to head down under and visit with you guys, including Nelly Korda. I was just with her at the Diamond Resorts Tournament of Champions here in Orlando this past week, and she's geared up and ready to go to defend her title.
And we mentioned just before that Inbee Park making her first trip for a tournament golf into Australia. She looked the goods too there in Florida, and she must be chuffed to come down and see, one of the most, unheralded courses on the Rota.
She's really excited to come down. We asked her, what gets you out this early this year? This is the first time she had teed up in January since 2016. And 2016 and 2020 have 2 very important things in common. They're both Olympic years. Currently, Inbee is not on Team Korea for the Olympics. She was on the outside looking in. You can have up to 4 players per country as long as they're inside the top 15 in the rankings. I don't have the rankings update right in front of me. I believe she did move up, but she's still on the outside looking in for Team Korea. Decided there were a lot of events early that could help her jump up her ranking. So she's taking full advantage. Teed it up last week in Orlando. Currently, we'll be at our event in Boca Raton, Florida, down near Miami this week. Then plans to tee it up in both Australia events as well as Singapore and Blue Bay, China, before coming back here to the U.S. So she's going all in to try and get back and defend her gold medal. I asked her about Australia. She said she's excited and ready to get down there.
Christina, we spent a lot of time on this podcast lamenting the fact that some of the male players don't travel as extensively as the females do. Give us a sense for why so many of the top players in the world are prepared to come down to Australia and play in these events.
I think a lot of it, honestly, is the experience. It's a great trip down there. We enjoy it. Enjoy getting to hang out first in Barwon Heads at Vic Open, and then make our way over to Adelaide. The people are great. The fans are great. We all love the coffee. I don't drink, guys. I don't drink hot coffee, but guys, I had a flat white every day for 2 weeks last year. I'm excited to get back to that. It's just the experience. The golf courses are great. Everyone loves it. Yes, it's a long flight. Yes, it's the first 2 weeks of 5 weeks over on your side of the globe for us. There's a lot of things to be thought about, a lot of things to decide for personal reasons, but I know our players love coming over and visiting the Australian golf courses and playing in front of the fans there.
So keeping that Adelaide focus, Christina, from your perspective, but also from the players, how important is it for things like the Fringe Festival, which is just so impressive for visitors to Adelaide to take part in? How important is that as a lure to get the world's best players here, to have something to do when the golf clubs get hung up for the night?
It's absolutely crucial, I think. Our players, they get out and they grind and they're working hard, and they're out there when the lights aren't, when they have to have lights to be able to see on the putting green, to when the sun goes down. But at the end of the day, a lot of times when we're overseas, we're there without vehicles. So anything we can get out and walk to is key. And having the Fringe Festival right around the corner, I got over around the corner last year with your lovely communications team and sat on a picnic table and had some amazing food, and people watched and enjoyed. I know a bunch of our players went to various shows last year. I got to meet some of the performers, and it's great to have that. It's great to have the beach down the ferry, down on the tram that we could go down and visit. I got the opportunity to take a Penfolds tour last year. I know a lot of players have done that as well. So being able to get out and experience, for some players, this may be their first and only time they get to go to Australia. A lot of them like to make the most of that. So having things like the Fringe that we can get to so quickly and enjoy and really feel like we're at home make that week in the hotel just a little more better.
Christina, well, just before we let you go, I know it's not in your kind of job charter to individualise, but there's a lot of established, sort of lead players on the LPGA Tour at the moment. Give me a name or two of a couple of the youngsters that might be buzz players that are on that sort of edge on the cusp of emerging into the top ranks. Have you got a couple we should keep our eye on in 2020?
How about I should keep my eye on in 2020? Man, you're putting me on the spot here. I'm still getting to meet some of our rookies, some of our new names coming up. But a name that's on the Women's Australian Open list that I think you should all keep an eye on is Kristen Gilman. She was a LPGA rookie in 2019, a graduate of the University of Alabama, came on strong late in the year, one of only four rookies, who qualified for our season-ending event. Had a great hole-in-one at our event in Korea, the BMW Ladies Championship. Won, I believe, a BMW 7 Series. Instead of, no offense, it was the Toyota. It was a little nicer than her Camry. And so she was excited to get back and drive that. She's actually a two-time U.S. Women's Am champ and won those titles, I believe, 4 years apart. So this girl's got game. She's tough. She likes to have fun. She'll be one I bet we'll see out at the Fringe Festival. And then we've also got a lot of up-and-coming rookies. We'll see a lot, I'm sure, out of Patty Tavatanakit and Yelini No. Patty won 3 times on the Symetra Tour last year, our developmental tour, to earn her way to the LPGA Tour via the Volvic race or the card. And Yelini No twice was in contention to win after Monday qualifying, then ultimately did reach the Tour via Q Series. She turned pro at 17 after winning the Girls Junior PGA, the U.S. Girls Junior, and the Canadian Women's Am in back-to-back weeks, 3 weeks in a row, 3 major amateur victories. So she's going to be a name we're going to see. She's already started making her splash, and I have no doubt they'll all be excited as well.
Well, Christina, for somebody who was caught on the hop with a question, you've actually done a magnificent job coming up with a couple of names for us. So don't despair. There will be another run in the Belichick-Brady era. I'm convinced they'll stick together and we'll just surround Tom with a couple of skilled players and we'll be right. So you and I and a few others have got a bit more to look forward to before we hang this one up. Thanks for joining us on the show again. We look forward to having you back down here.
My pleasure. My flight leaves a week from tomorrow. I'm excited.
Good on you. Christina Lance, LPGA Senior Manager for part of their media team.
It's somewhat embarrassing as a supposed golf media professional to stand next to her, Andy, when questions like that get thrown up because she knows way more. She's forgotten more than I know.
Right. You raised a really good point there, and it's something I've never really thought about from a domestic perspective. I know it's hard. Clayton's looking at me like, what? He raised a good point. He looks all befuddled over there. But over here in Australia, support our golf tournaments with bigger events. You mentioned the Fringe Festival in Adelaide. In Hobart, when the yachts come in for the Sydney to Hobart, they have the Taste Festival down in Hobart. So you get there, it's not just about the boats arriving, but once you're there, you've got this fantastic, kind of festival going on around it. 13th Beach does a bit of that. They kind of bring the ballerine to the tournament to a degree. There's something in that, I reckon.
Well, the Irish Open at Lahinch, they had a massive street party at Lahinch the whole week, really, which they could easily do at Bowen Heads. It would be great to close off that street. And it could be fantastic. But the Vic Opens that does that really well.
Really well.
Yeah. Rundle Mall in Adelaide. No,
Hindley Street.
Well, no, all those parts, but more at the. I guess what would it be, the eastern end of I'm just testing my geography there, but the
I think that's right,
where they shut down the streets and just have the restaurants spill out onto the footpaths and actually across the roads in some cases. It's awesome. It's genuinely awesome. It's one of the best festivals in Australia, and that it ties in with the golf is a happy coincidence for us because we love going there. It's just a cracker. And with all the other great sport on, Andy, around that time in Adelaide as well.
Yeah, true.
The cycling, we just had the tennis with Ash Barty. There's so much going on.
AFLW starting up, of course, the defending champions, the Adelaide Crows. 53,000 people. They got to the grand final over there last year, Clates, at the Adelaide Oval.
Good for them.
Knocked over the Carlton Footy Club. We'll get them back this year. So if you want to know where to watch it, it's on the ABC's got extensive coverage of the ISPS Handa Women's Australian Open. We'll be there again with radio coverage, so stick the things in your ears and have a listen when you're out on the course.
Well, for the first time, Andy, because we've done it before at the Men's Australian Open a handful of times, but this time we're branching out.
Brilliant.
So
Fantastic.
we're going to have that coverage on the weekend, on the Saturday and Sunday for all the afternoon. So stand by for more details on that, and maybe a bit of a surprise at the Vic Open too. But that's going to be outstanding and arguably about time.
And tickets available. If you're listening to this and you think, you know what, I've got a bit of time up my sleeve, I might head over to Adelaide to take all of that in. Tickets are available at Ticketek. And if you want any more of the details, the price up on the screen now, $25 for individuals, $19 concession, kids under 16 free, which is absolutely fantastic. If you want to find out any more of the details about any of that, go to women'sausopen.com.
Just to go out and have a look at Royal Adelaide too. I mean, it is a world-class course. It's the hidden. It's not hidden. It's just a.
Yeah, it's been the World Top 100 for years.
Yeah, not often seen or known course by the masses, but it is a cracker. If you've never been in the gates, because you just drive past and you wouldn't know what was in there, it's a beauty. It's an absolute beauty.
One of my first ever golf memories, and it's not about me, this is a segue into you, and I know you don't like talking about yourself, but one of my first ever, you would have played in this tournament, one of my first ever memories watching golf as a kid was on the ABC back in the late 70s. Must have been, I'm going to say it was at the Grange when Norman won the Westlakes Classic.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, well, I was.
You would have played in that, wouldn't you?
No. This will tie into the Australian Amateur last week at Royal Queensland.
Yeah.
We played the Interstate Series at Royal Queensland. I played Peter Senior. Wayne Grady was in the team in 1976, and Greg was the assistant pro. He was picking up the balls for us on the range. That was at Easter.
What year?
Easter 1976. So April 76.
Yeah.
Westlakes was the same year, probably in September, maybe October, probably October. So 6 months later, he won the Westlakes Classic.
That is unbelievable. Did you know about it? Yeah.
I first saw him play in 1974 in the Junior Series in Sydney.
Yep.
And a friend of mine said, "Go watch this guy play. He's incredible." And he just smashed it. Like for 1970, he had a little Jack Nicklaus Strata block driver, shallow fed with a small B51. He just smashed it.
Remember the buzz out of that week?
That was incredible.
It was like, the light's gone on. It was something a bit special,
well, he
wasn't
had a 10-shot lead after 3 days.
Yeah.
He shot 64, 67, 66.
Yeah.
Then shot 74, but, I mean, no one could believe it. But I'd seen him play. Everyone who'd seen him play knew how good he was.
Yeah.
And there he was, picking up balls on the range.
6 months before he's...
Come on, kid.
Picking range balls at him.
What was your best... I'm interested only because what was your best result over in South Australia in your playing days?
Choked away a South Australian Open one year. I bogeyed the last 2 holes to lose to Terry Gale.
By a shot?
By 2.
No.
And Wayne Grady beat me by 1 as well.
Well, have a look at some of the more beautiful. I mean, we don't want to have replays of you taking the gas, but it is a magnificent part of the world. As again, on the audio podcast, you won't know what we're looking at here, but beautiful pictures of flowers, waves and bees. I mean, this is a lovely part of the world.
It's just people pot it and it's so stupid because it's so much to do over there and the scenery is breathtaking. So
I'll tell you, one of the best potential roads of amazing golf courses, equal to the Sandhills in Nebraska. If you drive from Robe to Adelaide, you just drive past, I don't know how many hundreds of kilometres of just unbelievably perfect land to build golf courses. It's incredible.
Are there any golf courses along the way?
I didn't see one.
Right.
But you could build 50.
Just go and do what they did to Richard down in Barnbougle, knock on someone's door and say, listen, can we have 1,000 acres?
So why does Barnbougle work? Because it's hard to get to. You've got to drive to.
But how hard is it to get to...
Barnbougle, you get in a plane, you fly there and it's... I always think Barnbougle would work in Tasmania.
Why do you say that?
Well, because you've got to make an effort to go there, but it's not physical. You don't have to drive in a car for 8 hours. If you had to drive 2 hours past Robe to a course in the middle of nowhere, from Melbourne it's a 12-hour drive.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, maybe you can fly to Warrnambool and drive, but it's just trickier. So Barnbougle works because it's actually so hard to get to. It's like driving on English roads. They're actually so unsafe. They're safe.
Yeah.
Barnbougle's so well, I was going to say difficult. It's so tricky to get to, but it's actually easy to get there.
Yeah.
To drive to even Robe Golf Club or Port Fairy, it's more of an effort. But the land's incredible. It's incredible land for golf.
Yeah.
So the South Australian government should be all over someone like Richard Sattler and building a golf course on that street.
Exactly, they should be listening to you right now. Bit of general business before we wrap this thing up. Hannah Green, is she teeing it up? Of course.
We should mention that Hannah Green will be, as we mentioned before, one of the stalwart of Australian chances, I suppose. That's a bad phrase, Andy.
Stalwart, she's been in pro for 2 years. Yeah.
Of Australia's chances, I don't know. Maybe bad word. Sorry about that. We'll no doubt see a lot of her through the 4 days on the course. But she's done a lot in preparation too, and she continues to be a great giver in terms of media, but more importantly for the juniors in Australian golf. And she set up a cracking little video, which I think we should have a look at.
Alice, you got a present from somebody.
Hi Alice, it's Hannah here. I heard a little whisper that you've been saving up some money to come to the Women's Oz Open to watch myself and all the other LPGA players that are coming along. So as my Christmas present to you, I would love if you and your sister Rosie would come and join me in Adelaide for a few days. You guys will have the opportunity to come inside the ropes, hang out with me, see what life on the road is like at a tournament, and also just meet some amazing LPGA Tour players. So, Merry Christmas to you all, and I'll see you guys very soon.
That brings a tear to your eye, that stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it?
That's
bloody amazing.
Yeah, for those who, it really does. For those who couldn't see that on the audio podcast, that's a little Christmas present that Hannah shot for, was it Alice, I think?
Yeah, Alice, yeah.
Little Alice, who's going to come along to Adelaide and be part of the whole week with Hannah Green. It does bring a tear to your eye to see the impact that now a major champion can have on the next generation. I can see your eyes.
Oh no, I'm telling you, I'd seen a clip of that without really sitting down and watching it quietly before.
Yeah.
My kids were watching. I got 3 daughters. They were watching. I made sure they watched the US Open when she was closing in on winning it, and when she knocked in the last putt, my kids went bunter, and they went completely coco. And they know who Hannah Green is. Yeah. They spend more time talking about Hannah Green in our house whenever I watch golf. Her name will invariably get mentioned than we get in the back pages of sporting newspapers around Australia and on nightly sports bulletins. Yeah. My kids would love to see more stories out there.
It's amazing
about
how
Hannah Green.
Much bigger a star amongst the general population is Ash Barty is than Hannah Green. When in fairness, they both did the same thing.
Yep. The fact is, the only thing I can think about there that separates is that Barty got to number 1. That feels like the only thing, But you're right, it's a good point. Yeah. The magnitude of what Hannah Green did in 2019, I think in the broad sweep of things, was overlooked.
I mean, we stood by the 10th tee on the West Course, I don't know, maybe the President's Cup, the 6th, I think, the little par 4. Yep. Hannah, Jared, her boyfriend, Suo, me, Huggy, I think. Not one person recognised her.
No.
Yeah, if Ash Barty had walked into a golf tournament, they all would have recognised her.
Yep. She was walking around at the Australian Open watching Jared, and I told a couple of little kids, that he's over there under that big hat. I went, no, who's that? And I said, Hannah Green. Oh, really? Over they went, so you're 100% right. That's it. Episode number 141, Hazy.
Well done, Ian.
I got that out.
You've done well.
Thanks for being part of it all again. For the first time in 2020, we'll be back next week to do it all again.